Television highlights of the news of yesteryear.
The American Family Roosevelt. Here in 1932 are FDR and his family, right down to little Sisty and Buzzy. Look closely now and you'll see a slightly later addition to the family. It's Fala. Before days of presidency, Roosevelt family goes sailing with Skipper FDR at the helm. These were days of leisure, happy, pleasant times. But Inauguration Day 1933 ended all that. Now FDR, his mother, his wife, his daughter, and his sons were public figures, the family of the most powerful and important executive in the world. James, the eldest son, early became his father's aide and private secretary, rare honor and responsibility for any man. And the early years of the administration are exciting and happy. At Dutchess County Horse Show, son John and daughter Anna, Mrs. Curtis Dahl, are watched by their proud father, anxious to see them do well in quest for wins in stiff competition. Here's son John, youngest of the Roosevelt boys, riding mount aptly named New Deal. John looks like a winner on that form, and John is a winner as New Deal gets the cup. FDR is not now President of the United States, but plain Franklin Roosevelt, proud of triumphant son. Like most presidents, FDR was great fisherman, and son James here joins his father on Vincent Astor's yacht, Potomac. Maybe James and his father didn't find the fishing good, but the jokes must have been great. There's blending of two great American families when Franklin Jr. weds the beautiful Miss Ethel du Pont. It's happy occasion, too, for Grandmother Roosevelt, Mrs. Roosevelt, and brothers John and Elliott. A du Pont becomes a Roosevelt in the highlight of the social season. At Hyde Park, daughter Anna is now Mrs. John Bettiger, but grandchildren Sisty and Buzzy are the main attraction, with Sisty's Bob getting perhaps a little too much attention from the playful president. With war in the early 40s, Roosevelt's sons were soon in uniform and in action. Here's Elliott at North African Airfield planning mission with his fellow flyers. At airfield that still bears marks of combat, Major General Jimmy Doolittle pins medal on Elliott, now Lieutenant Colonel Roosevelt, with countless missions to his credit. A son follows in his father's footsteps, as nearly as war will allow. Franklin Roosevelt Jr., a naval lieutenant, wins the Silver Star and Purple Heart for his activities in America's war on water. Vice Admiral Kent Hewitt makes the award for young Roosevelt's service above and beyond the call of duty. Here in February 1945, with her father ill and tired, Anna Roosevelt goes to Yalta Conference as both companion and nurse. His only daughter, Anna Bettiger, was close to her famous father at war's end, and as the end of something else drew near for FDR. At Yalta, Anna waited while her father met with Stalin and Churchill over future of the world. But at home, death waited for Franklin Delano Roosevelt. The 12th of April, 1945, President and Father Roosevelt was dead. Because of the war, only a few of the bereaved family were at Hyde Park as FDR came home. But in spirit, they were all there, as were all the nations of the world, and all the people of all the nations. A great president, an inspired man, a devoted husband and loving father was gone. But his name and the inspiration of his name remain with his children and grandchildren and with the world.
In the early 1920s, Miss Laura Weber climbs up rope ladder to top of loft lighthouse in Straits of California's Golden Gate. And then, on platform high above whirling waters, she hears the preacher say, "Will you take this man?" And her answer is, "I do." The act of ceremony is sealed with a kiss. And then, the now Mrs. Ole Olson climbs down her ladder of love, a miss no more. Keeping her vows, made atop a California lighthouse, the new Mrs. Ole Olson then heads for the mainland to take up lighthouse keeping.
Here are Roxy and his gang. It's 1922, and the scene is Walter Reed Hospital in Washington, D.C. Roxy and his troop are down from New York to entertain soldiers wounded in World War I. The masters listen to their own voices, and Roxy and gang were masters indeed at cheering millions.
Here's Mary McCormick in the middle 1920s. Setting sail for Europe for well-earned rest and relaxation, Miss McCormick promises to be back in the fall for another season as singing star of the famed Chicago Opera Company. Great voice of an era that is gone, Mary McCormick.
Performance at Potluck Lodge. It's 1920, and standing among less funny totem pole faces is comedian Raymond Hitchcock. Hitchcock is being initiated into secret order of Potluck Lodge of Indian tribe. But the famed Filmland funny man can't be serious in any situation. Shining star of the silent films, Hitchcock was one of the great names of entertainment's greatest era. It's 1922, and at Nantasket Beach on shores of Massachusetts, famed Atlantic House falls victim to disastrous and destructive blaze. Few hours after fire started, once luxurious lodge is in ruins. Firemen wet down smoking rubble, even though hotel is total loss. Initial blaze was not bad, but cold weather and high winds fanned flames and hampered firemen. And at end, hotel is nothing but castle of charred timber and ice.
In Paris, France, in the early 1920s, trains got a thorough washing from locomotive to observation car, just slowing down. This train's crammed with travelers as it eases between showers, shooting water at high pressure. If passengers wondered why they were warned to keep their windows closed, they don't wonder now. When you railed it to Paris in the early 1920s, you not only came by train, you came clean.
It's 1923, and Daredevil Ivan Unger does things in the air that would put a bird to shame. But then, what's Unger got to lose? Except a little altitude. Used to the ups and downs of a topsy-turvy world, Unger seems to be on top of the situation now. But Ivan, are you there? Wouldn't Unger be surprised if his pilot had fallen out? Here's Unger standing on bottom of plane as it flies upside down. If you think you've seen a frightening stunt, you ain't seen anything yet. Unger wraps himself around the landing gear axle for a reason. The reason being that the plane rights itself and will now land. Plane is now flying right side up, with a camera under the fuselage showing Unger still clinging to axle of landing gear. Watch closely now and you'll get a landing gear's view of a plane hitting the runway as it roars to earth. If you ask us, Unger was a lot safer when the plane was up in the air.
Beauties mind the baby. It's 1921 and co-eds of Corvallis, Oregon prepare for parenthood by taking on the care, feeding, and coddling of little Harry McCoy. Little Harry's just 13 months old and probably doesn't care what his score of mothers look like. Chances are he'll be a woman hater by the time he's 2. If he wants to bite the hand that feeds him, he's got a problem. Baby's carriage has spoke wheels and is made of wicker and looks as if sex were in style for co-eds. Baby bath fashions haven't changed one bit. Baby didn't like it, but took it. And the same thing goes for baby now.
It's 1921, and in waters near Seattle, Washington, disaster crews of the United States fleet vie for coveted Navy crown. Early in race, boat from the battleship Mississippi takes and holds the lead. As race continues, looks as if the men from Ole Miss are going to be masters all the way. Pace of race is evident from speed of this powerboat following the cruise. Lake steamers along course are crowded to gunwales with sailors cheering their comrades on. And every man jack has money on his mates. You can tell this fellow is from the battle wagon Pennsylvania. But the cheering for the others is in vain. Crossing the finish line first is the crew from the Colorado, victors in a fast and furious mile across the waters of Lake Washington.